Welcome to a special episode of CRST, the podcast. In this episode, we're diving into successful strategies to help improve your business model. I'm Florian Kretz, founder and CEO of PVK Precise Vision in Rhine, Germany, and joining me is a panel of 4 surgeons who hail from all over the world. Francesco Carones, Medical Director and Physician CEO, Carones Vision Milan, Andrei Filip, AMA Optimex Eye Clinic Romania, Magda Rau, Augenklinik Kam and Refractive Private Clinic Dr. Rau in Kam, Germany, and Asa van den Berg, Universidade Federal de São Paulo, Brazil. And we are going to cover the topics about reducing costs, controlling staff turnover and retention, enhancing patient interaction to improve business in the time of COVID-19, telemedicine, and increasing workflow efficiency, and we'll give you some real-world examples of what we have learned, changed, and even improved in our clinics during the pandemic. Let's jump right into it. Francesco, what steps have you taken to reduce costs, control staff turnover and retention, and in-person patient interaction to improve business in the time of COVID-19?
Well, Florian, the COVID times here in Italy have been very hard. The pandemic hit very strongly, especially in northern Italy, where I'm based. But surprisingly, the economy has not been hit as severely as the patients, the people who got sick. So in other words, obviously we had a reduction in volume and we had some, extra expenses to face with, like disposables, like, all the PPE and so. But in full honesty, we didn't really have to cut down costs significantly. And what we had to do basically is more on the patient outreach, meaning being able to, involve the patients who were remotely involvable only because they could not come to the practice very easily. But the fact that going out from the house, breaking the lockdown for medical reasons was one of the few reasons for the people to actually leave their houses. We maintained a pretty good volume even during March, April, and May last year. The COVID-19 hit strong in the strongest way. What we really did to involve the patients is to improve patients' interaction. So we did a lot of initiatives as regards remotely giving information and giving education to the patients. We started doing webinars to the patients. We started doing like a club webinars as well, which means small numbers with a lot of interaction with the patients. We tried to focus not only on core business issues like surgery or whatever. We tried more to involve the patients on topics they were more interested about. So we did some webinars related to COVID. We did some webinars related to for instance, dry eye, related to the usage of the mask, all of these things. And actually, these initiatives worked pretty well at the point that even now that we are almost out of the problem, a lot of initiatives, a lot of changes are still in place, and I think they will never go away.
So your main focus was really to go for patient interaction, what I think is like a great way, instead of going to this typical marketing aspect that we all doctors use, is find the patient, get a refractive treatment or cataract treatment, and then best you don't see the patient again. You did it completely differently. You really bound the patient to your practice, gave the patient trust in your practice. I think there's a really nice way of coping the issue of COVID. Andrei, what steps have you taken?
So I think it happened to all of you. We were shocked at the beginning. So we froze and we didn't know what to expect. And we knew that us as owners of the clinic have the responsibility to take care of all our team, because I think that the team is one of the most important assets that we have. And the first decision we made was to not cut any costs. So we paid in full all our employees, and we have quite some. We are over 60 people. And we decided that, in good times we are together, and we have to be together also in bad times. So we use this to strengthen the relationship we have with our team and to build their trust. Also, I think that this approach was somehow very useful in order to allow them to become more involved even in those, I don't know, uncertain times. And then after the lockdown, it finished, we tried to keep everything as it was, as most as possible. And we also continued to have new technology coming into our clinic, because we had the same idea that during difficult times, people have to feel that we are there strong, and we know what we are doing, and something like this will not cripple us in any way, let's say.
Asa, you're working in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, completely different part of the world compared to Andrei. How did you cover with the problems of COVID-19 and with your staff, and especially in the university, which is also different setup than private?
We have different impact in the university and in my private office. And during the pandemic, our first step obviously was to reduce costs. And to do that, we reduced staff working hours and consequently salaries. And in addition, there was a big impact on the logistics of the entire team. And we also had to renegotiate some contracts with the providers. And here in my clinic, we also observed that the patient became more digitalized, and so they started to be more aware of technological investments. And we already had our integrated diagnostic and surgical center with a lot of technologies and speeding up planning, pre-op planning, minimizing the possibility of errors. The printing of documents also reduced with the technology too, and which led a decrease in chances of contamination. I think this gave patients a feeling of greater safety in this time. And in the university, that is not a private, my private practice, the impact was really important. The cataract surgeries stopped all over the university. The elective procedures was impossible to be continued, and it was a really difficult time. We are still in a very critical situation here in Brazil, with a high number of patients in hospital and high contagion rate. And our probably different from Europe. Here we see around only 12% vaccinated of vaccination rate. It's really very low, and we are still suffering this impact nowadays.
Magda, you're in South Germany. And I know in Bavaria, especially, like the regulations were even stricter than in many other parts in Germany. How did you cope with the COVID situation and keep your practice running?
In the beginning of the pandemic, COVID pandemic, was this situation very scary for everybody. The patients were afraid to go for examination for the clinic. So to reduce the cost, we offer the patients only some hours, only half a day, some day on the mornings and in the afternoon but to be available for the patients. We are not allowed in Bavaria to perform the scheduled operations, so the operation were cancelled, the patients anyway would not come to the operations. So I reduced the staff in Germany. We have such a government program which support the short work. So we received a part of the salary of the employees reimbursed from the government. It was a great help. The other point was that we did not have surgery, so the costs were lower because we did not have the costs for the lenses, for the other material which we use for the operations. We treated only patients with emergency acute problems as inflammation, iridocyclitis, glaucoma issues, etc. But in summer, the situation changed, and slowly the patients start to come to our clinic. We start as well with the operation. I was lucky that I did not dismiss my staff, nobody of my staff, so we start work again. In that time, it was interesting, the interest on the refractive surgery increased because the patients are spending a lot of time on their screens, and some felt limited with the glasses or with contact lenses. So I concentrate myself and my business to this part of the ophthalmologist. We offer the refractive surgery. We advertise, makers were advertising in radio to cover the gap which developed during the COVID. And in autumn, in the winter, the situation completely changed because the patient lost the fear of the COVID. So we get a lot of patients for operations. So I need the staff as before, and we did not more to go to the short work. So it was much better situation. So we react, we reduce the cost in the time when it was necessary, but still we had the staff to have when the time changes and when the patient again came to examination and as well to the surgeries.
I think it's very interesting to see those like different approaches that everybody took. We in Northern Germany did a similar thing. Like Andrei, we kept our staff. We were lucky the government supported us to reduce the hours. And well, like Asa said, I think the workflow management during COVID was what really helped us to stay on track and to especially come back on track by managing patient flow in that situation. Magda, you were also talking a lot about like expenses and also reducing expenses. Did you also start negotiating about prices with the companies that were reduced, or like we had to experience that many prices went up, especially for sterile solutions, drapes and coats? So Magda, how did you cope with that situation of the change of prices and less patients coming in, especially in the beginning of the pandemic?
So I tried to reduce costs. On the beginning, we did not the surgical mask. We did not have the scraps. We did not have the caps. So I tried to get the protection stuff on different sources and internet. So I see that I have to reduce the cost. So I deal with some companies, some provider of intraocular lenses, and some companies gave me lower prices, but somebody else, they said it was the quality cost price. But at that time, I tried as well to offer some patient, because some patients have interest on expensive of the newest technologies, but some patients lost as well their occupation, their jobs in Bavaria, in Germany, and in all part of the world, so they cannot afford such an expensive method. So I as well ordered bifocal lenses, and I offered the patient as well. Out of lenses, which cost not so much money. I changed my business strategy. I oriented my clinic as well on the cheaper IOLs.
Francesco, what was most expensive for you in that time, or what cost you the most? And when you look back in the time, what gave you the most return beside that patient interaction that you had?
All right. So the largest costs we had were related to the tests, because for a medical practice to keep on being open in Italy, like anti-COVID tests became mandatory, and being something totally different, being something totally new, being something that patients were not supposed to cover. And being the tests, especially at the very beginning, quite expensive, that was a larger cost. So we had to start doing like PCR and antibodies at the very beginning, because the antigen test was not available yet to the patients who were coming to the practice. And at the very beginning, the cost for a PCR to the practice was in the range of 50 euros, maybe they're around. And obviously, this is a cost that is justifiable for surgery when you have a lot of profit. That was not really justifiable for consultation visits, pre-op exams, and all that. So we ended up finding a kind of elegant way to offer these tests also to the accompanying persons who were not supposed to be screened and not supposed to enter the practice. But at that time, it was difficult to have these tests done. And so a lot of people liked the idea of, bringing someone from the family or friends or relatives like this, and maybe pay a little bit of money for having a test and making sure they were not, asymptomatic or so. So that was an expense, but also we found a way for at least reducing the costs of the expense itself.
What brought you the biggest gain, the change or the adaptation that you performed in your practice, in your routine, where you really saw, wow, that is something that where I really had a benefit from, and I would have never thought about it without COVID?
Well, probably, as I said, the biggest advantage that we had, if we can talk about an advantage, obviously, of the pandemic was on the realization that the understanding that reaching out to the patients can be as efficient as waiting for them. So the way that we started, involving the patients, communicating with them, as I said earlier, trying not only to be nice and smart when they used to call, but also try to be nice and smart in reaching out to them, if not asked, even if that was not asked, really opened a new way for, let's say, for marketing. I mean, really, that was a game changer. In the past, we never really solicited, let's say, patients to come to have surgery done. And with the pandemic, actually, we started, finding those patients who were already, coming in the past into the practice, maybe myopic or having a little bit of cataract. and calling them back and saying, listen, this is a good opportunity for you because you are in lockdown, we are in lockdown, you are home working, you are not going to the office, and this may be a good option for you to have surgery done during this period of your life because you have more time for having it done. You have much less other things to do. And actually, this was kind of a surprisingly efficient way for, as I said, maintaining a good volume of surgeries, which at the end of the day is the highest revenue generator.
Oh, I have to absolutely agree with you. When I think about what brought us the most, it was opening a test center in our main facility and offering now vaccinations at all my facilities. Because that indirect marketing that patients sign up and come into practice just for a vaccination, but they see the facility, they see the staff. We have a really high increase in patient appointments now. And that only happened over communication that was not ophthalmology related.
I mean, the idea of offering vaccination is really, innovative, especially for a practice like yours that is ophthalmology, almost ophthalmology only related. And I never heard about something like this. I really like to congratulate with this, novel, innovative approach. That is a very, very brilliant idea.
We did hit, I think, 1,300 vaccinations over the last 4 weeks just today. So it's a very efficient way to bring new patients in your practice, because I have to say it's 90% patients that have not been our patients before. Andrei, many of my patients had the experience that was wearing those masks, they got foggy glasses, they had difficulties getting dry eye, especially with the computer work. Do you feel that when the first changes came along and you started operating again, that you had more demands for trifocal lenses or laser refractive surgery in those cases?
So in our case, something very interesting happened. So the number of, as you do, I do a lot of laser vision correction. So I do SMILE, I do Press Beyond, I do femtoLASIK, and I use a lot of multifocals. So all the numbers of premium surgery went up like crazy. So like in 2020, we had about 70% increase in laser vision correction and in premium surgery. So I think that people started to think more of themselves, got scared because everything what's happening. So they were depending on one more thing like glasses. So yes, the demand was very high, and it still keeps to that level at this very moment. What I've seen recently, very interestingly, the number of refractive surgery, laser refractive surgery decreased a little bit, just insignificant, but the number of cataract surgery demands is very high. I think because of the things calming down a little bit in Romania and elderly people coming out and wanting to solve their problems. But yes, having premium IOLs like trifocals or multifocals and high-end laser vision correction helped us a lot.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. I can see that on our own numbers, they're increasing, and they're now increasing also with cataract. Asa, what is you said it's already, the situation is still not as good in Brazil as it is in Europe already with the amount of people that are vaccinated and the people that are hospitalized. But what's your feeling about refractive surgery at the moment?
During the pandemic, we have a reduction in the number of consultations in our clinic, but we had to focus on increasing our cataract surgery conversion rate to financially balance our business. Refractive surgery and cataract refractive surgery also. And since we had more chair time with our patients and together with the improvements in technologies, we achieved a significant increase in our conversion rate into premium surgeries, especially trifocal IOLs. And as you said, the use of masks create fogginess, and patients had a greater desire to be spectacle free. And I'm not a refractive surgeon. My wife She is a laser surgeon, and we also observed that the volume, the decrease of volume was not so important in this specialty. As cataract surgery, the patients are elderly. The impact of this decrease was more important than the refractive procedures.
Asa, well, I think you summarized it really well, what is changing right now. Asa, if we look at the cataract surgery and especially the cataract surgery workflow, did you incorporate more telemedicine or different ways of counseling the patients because you just have a better connectivity of the devices during the time, or do you feel that you didn't really make many changes in your practice?
We have I love technology, and I really like new technologies, and here our workflow helped a lot in this time of pandemic. We have, I already said, we have everything integrated, our surgical center and our clinic with all the devices, and it helped a lot in this time. Telemedicine, here we had a problem, I don't know, in Europe is the same thing, but as many cataract patients are elderly, the family often comes to the consultation to help to understand the procedure. And this could not continue due to the possibility of crowding in the waiting rooms. So we created a direct communication channel for pre and post operatory guidance. I think it helped a lot in this to avoid this crowding in the waiting rooms in our office, our clinic.
Andrei, you're a very experienced refractive surgeon. How did you incorporate, or did you incorporate telemedicine or outside counseling with your patients? And did you also try to connect your medical devices like the IOL Master, the Atlas Topographer into that, so you basically can work from home with them?
So, you know what we did when the lockdown came in, we got lots of messages from patients who were, like chronic patients. And we decided to implement this telemedicine, and we used it for free for all those lockdown months. Also, we thought that patients were in need and they wanted to talk to a specialist and guide them through these days. And if the glasses are fogging and they have dry eyes, and what shall we do with the drops? He had glaucoma or something like that. So also we use this platform. We integrated it. As you know, we have our own EMR. And we have integrated this platform with the EMR, so we can manage it directly. And when we got into the lockdown, we had to cancel 1,700 and something patients. So then we realized that we need to manage them. So before going back to work, I think 3 weeks before, we split all this number to all our doctors. And we got in contact with them with the telemedicine platform, and we tried to see what's their problem and what should be their flow in the clinic. And it helped us a lot. We kept this service 2 more months for free. It was without charge for the patient. And then we started to charge a little bit less than a normal consultation, and we still use it as Arthur said. So for instance, we limited the access of the accompanying persons in our clinic in order to improve the workflow. We can meet with the patient online before we discuss what their needs, and then we know that they have to do this, this, and that. And also, if they have things that they didn't understand, we use it throughout their journey in our clinic. So I think it's very useful, and we will continue to use it forever, I think. And for the people who are elderly and they did not manage to connect with Zoom, for instance, because we use Zoom, we simply called on WhatsApp or try to make video conference on WhatsApp, or I just simply call them on the phone, and it still helps. I think it's an amazing tool that found its place in our lives.
As you know, Andrei, in Germany, everything is more complicated. So we only can use certified telemedicine channels. But we did manage to implement that with our patients. And I started using the telemedicine platforms for two reasons. One is for basically pre-op counseling and creating leads. So I only offered second opinion for cataracts and first information online visits for refractive patients that just want to get informed. And then what we started to implement is patients knew we have to reduce chair time. We have to reduce the in-office time. So what we offered them is they get all their examinations. They get a quick explanations, because usually the pupils are dilated anyways and they can't read properly, and they go home with all the material. And then we make a little video call where we go over each point of the whole examination and use all the data that we collected. Because now it's very simple. You can look at your forum system from home. You have all the measurements available. And that makes it a really smooth process in the counseling, and the patient, at least I had the feeling we had a higher conversion rate with that, because the patients feel better taken care of. Francesco, did you implement any kind of telemedicine during the time of COVID?
We did a little bit, but in full honesty, as it was and as is now, I'm not sure that telemedicine is a really efficient tool to go with as regards ophthalmology, because unfortunately, a remote visit, a remote possibility for really, checking what is wrong with patients' eyes or sight or vision. It's kind of challenging. We are still missing the technology for doing this, and I know that a lot of it is under development now. But as it was, especially March to May or June last year, actually the possibility for really screening patients or doing what we really can call telemedicine was minimal. So I think that more than telemedicine in the as a real world, I think that the greatest approach that could have been done and to do it, as I said, is getting to the patients. I mean, showing your face, showing your willingness to interact with them. Obviously, we open a kind of consultation service for the patients, but more than on diagnostics. The consultation was more on the indication for surgery, more on the suggestions on what to do or what not to do in some cases, or even the idea of telling the patients, yes, you have an issue that may be dangerous for your eye, your sight, or your vision. So better if you come to the office, or no, don't worry, this is not very important. Don't take the risk of going around and stay at home. So more than really telemedicine, we try to reach the patients. That is the main point.
So you also offer a great portfolio to your patients. When you look back at your refractive numbers, many of my colleagues report that they had really increasing numbers during COVID and even now. Do you have the same experience in Italy?
Not at the very beginning, not at the immediate, let's say, end of the severe lockdown period. Numbers used to grow significantly, and I go back to the period June, July. August has always been out in Italy, so even last year August was a month off because of holidays and vacation. But then September, October, November, December. I mean, for elective procedures like refractive surgery, refractive lens exchange, all that can be decided by the patients. Be taken as a something to improve their life, something to improve their comfort, something to improve their daily activities. I would say yes. I mean, patients for many reasons became more available in undergoing these kind of elective procedures. And there are many reasons beyond it, because the fog from the mask on the glasses, the fact of spending hours in front of the computer, the reason of not having other expenses, no possibility for going out to restaurants, no possibility to travel and all of that, made these potential patients saving a little bit of money to have this procedures done. So definitely, and again, I don't want to say this is a nice outcome from a pandemic, but what was something really worrying for practice owners like you and I turned out to be an opportunity that was kind of efficient also in terms of finance.
Magda, was there any like specific refractive success story for you during the last 14, 16 months during the COVID pandemic, where you really say, yeah, that is something that where I could really help those patients with like a latest technology IOL or latest technology laser treatment?
Yes, in the last time I'm involved during the pandemic, but mixed technology, Hydres. I was the first who performed the implantation in Europe, also clinical study, and Omni, but it is other story, it is glaucoma story. I work with some new technologies. I implanted new trifocal lenses, Trio on Biotech. Then I as well started to implant and perform a small study of hydrophilic asymmetric intraocular lens from Teleon. Other hydrophilic lenses, the trifocal. I involve now, the patient is very satisfied on the lenses as well, not so expensive because as I mentioned before, some patients lost their jobs, their employment, and they don't have the money. The enhanced techniques, I am very satisfied with the results of the lens. Yes, to the previous discussion, I want to say that after the refractive surgeries, after clear lens exchange and as well an excimer laser surgery, we are not allowed to write the patient the note, the sick note. So, and now is the reason that the refractive surgery cases increase because a lot of people work in the home office, and it is from the people easier to stay a couple of days at home after the clear lens exchange or after refractive surgery. However, and so the interest on the refractive surgery increased. It is only a comment to the previous discussion.
I think COVID has taught us all a lot, and at least for myself, I know there's actually a lot of things that we have kept and that will further on improve our practice. Asa, if you can decide on one example of what you learned or what you changed or what you improved in your clinic, what you're going to keep and further develop in the future, will you give me one of those examples to share?
I learned to live with less patient and less money. With the use of the technology, we have improved our interface with the patients, and they are embracing technology, and consequently, by becoming more efficient and safe, we have improved our patient-doctor relationship. I think that's it for.
If you think about a success story during the last 12 months in relation to a new device, a new lens or a new laser, was there anything that you purchased for your practice during the time that you really feel, yeah, that brought me forward?
Well, more than a device or a surgical solution, I think that what made a difference was like literally striving for outcomes, striving for excellence, striving for values in terms of spectacle independence, values in terms of avoiding to wear glasses. So actually, I mean, my practice has always been purely and totally private. So the target patients have always been posed with premium procedures like presbyopic correcting IOLs and all of that. I think that the game changer was really promoting more and more and more all the procedures that were showing patients highest levels of value. When I say value, it means benefits, advantages. And this is for all the premium procedures.
Andrei, what did you learn, or what are you willing to share? What really helped you and what you're going to continue to work on?
So I think that this thing has forced us to use our minds and to make everybody's life much better in terms of workflow. So our workflow improved absolutely amazing, and we have more time for ourselves, more time to do things that we love. Also in private, not only in the clinic.
Which technology, Andrei, that's a second question for you, would you invest in right now in that pandemic, where you really think that still keeps me and might also help Arthur to come over his problems having less patience and less money?
You know, I've always tried to have different technology than everybody else. I'm talking about in Romania. So maybe, as you know, our clinic introduced Smile in Romania for the first time in 2014. Then we have introduced Presbeyond in 2019. And we were the first ones who start to use the trifocals from Zeiss. And I'm always paying attention in having how to differentiate ourselves. So I think that having a whole range of refractive platform, like addressing to everybody's problems helps a lot. So out of all of this experience we had, I think being different in a good way and providing everything for your area or your field of work is the most important thing.
Is there one specific technology where you would say that you implemented in the last 12 months that you would highlight, like diffractive profiles, new lenses, a new laser correction like LASIK Smile, Presbeyond, new monovision approaches, where you really say, yes, that is something that I learned in that time and that I'm going to keep, and that really is a benefit to my practice?
In terms of procedures or devices, I found myself finding very interesting two new profiles for presbyopia correcting IOLs, non-diffractive EDOF IOL, as well as a diffractive EDOF plus multifocal one, that gave patients more advantages, at least in my hands, compared to the previous generation of the IOLs that I was implanting, as well as what we can say presbyopia correction through laser technology. I mean, my numbers grew quite significantly for presby-LASIK, if we want to call like this, regardless to the system that you're using. And I found patients have been very, very not only satisfied after the procedure, but also happy to afford the procedure that they felt less invasive than refractive lens exchange, and kind of easier to receive than a more invasive procedure.
Magda, which tip would you share with someone else? What you learned from COVID, or what you developed during the COVID pandemic, and something that you will continue in the future?
We learned to be more effective, me and my team, in the short time. So the surgical examination for the surgical procedure is now running smoother, faster. I consult the patients during 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, so the patient know what operation would be the best this procedure for them to answer to their demand the which operation would have as well less risk from them. Yes, it is. I think it is the message that we have to. But still, when we want to be effective and we'll work very fast, we have to have still an open ear for the demands of the patient, for their needs, for their complaints, because it only then we can get satisfied patients.
What is the one thing that you have learned from this COVID pandemic that maybe changed your character or changed the way you see things, and that really helped you to get through the time and still be as successful or even more successful than before?
Well, I think what I learned actually is patient experience, as everybody's talking about, is a key factor, is the most important approach that we can give the patients, and probably for the patients as well, is a key decision maker to go to a practice or another one because of what the other people that have already been in the same practice are reporting about. And when I talk about patient experience, I'm talking about the whole process that goes from the first call, phone call, down to the last shake of hands after the surgery and after the last post-operative visit. So we learned quite a lot that, especially because of the pandemic, patients love to be loved. And so we tried to give them the feeling that they were not just numbers, they were not just cases, they were not just, medical subjects. We really learned to give them the idea, the experience of an involvement that, as well as a procedure, was personalized, and it is still personalized on a one-to-one basis. And this happened through, as I said, direct conversations, but also through the web, through our web page, through the social media we are using, and we really shifted our approach, our attitude to be more friendly with the patients, to be more at the level, at their side. And I found that this was, again, one of the elements that changed, not only because of COVID, but changed the practice, the heart of the practice, maybe in a better way. And this is going to be maintained in future.
I actually learned two important things from COVID. One is that even only having a video call or having a phone call with my colleagues can really help me to improve myself and my practice, because that's where you still get the best ideas and you don't need to be at a conference in person. And the second thing I really learned is workflow optimization is the key aspect. Connectivity between different medical devices in the diagnostic field, and having a smooth walkway for the patient through the practice can reduce chair time and also time spent in the office. And that's what we are really focusing right now, because it makes everything much more efficient. And I believe COVID won't be the last pandemic that we are really having. So Asa, I hope you also feel a little bit better about your reduced income and your reduced patients. And I don't know, you just wanted to comment on something. Go on.
The Zeiss Forum helped a lot in this integration. And 1 year ago, we have upgraded our forum with the cataract suite, the EK workplace. And this integration helped us a lot in our workflow, speeding up the pre-op planning, as I said, and the printing of documents was really reduced here, and the patient and the doctor were really happy with this this workflow efficiency. As the key workplace helped me a lot during this year.
Oh, I can absolutely agree. It helped us to become more paperless and to have less files being carried through. And also that was additional safety measure. This was a great discussion, and I think we all learned a little more that we can take back to our clinics to help improve our business models. I'm Florian Kretz, and along with our panelists Francesco Carones, Andrei Filip, Magda Rau, and Arthur van den Berg, we'd like to thank you for joining us. Take care.